eating. Over 75% of all the eating disorders in the country revolve around the fact that most people eat insufficient carbohydrates. And so by increasing carbohydrates to appropriate levels and decreasing fat down to the recommended levels by health professionals worldwide, what we find is that it's like fine-tuning in a radio station. And when you finally get it tuned, exactly dialed in to where you want it, you go, oh, that works, that's really clear, let's leave it right there. And understanding how that's done is relatively simple once somebody explains it to you.
Yes, education makes a lot of difference, and that's on a personal level of what someone will achieve on a personal level. What do you see the implications of a more global level for this kind of a diet too?
Well, the beauty of the 80-10-10 diet and a raw diet is many in terms of the worldwide implications. Number one, and I think first and foremost, is we stop producing the greenhouse gases associated with cooking foods, which are responsible for more emissions from cooking than from driving our cars in the Western world. In the rest of the world, it's substantially more, where they drive less but cook just as much. The numbers go up dramatically. And so we actually produce more greenhouse gases through cooking than we do through driving. But if we look at other aspects, for instance, if there's a war going on inside your body, if there's a chemical war going on because you've eaten foods that aren't adapted to optimum digestion, absorption, and nutrition, then that war reflects itself in the way we interface with other people. Our hormones become imbalanced, our health becomes imbalanced, you start having people at war with each other. In other words, part of eating peacefully is the fact that it generates peaceful societies. I truly believe there would be no war if everyone was eating an 80-10-10 diet, because there's just no reason to go to war. But along that route comes to light an interesting fact that using fruits and vegetables as our main food source, we can actually produce 100 times more food per acre than we can on a standard Western diet. I mean, we could feed 100 times as many people, or feed the people we have now on 1/100th the amount of land, freeing up fantastic amounts of land and energy for recreation and other healthful pursuits, rather than just saying, well, it's all got to be to corn. But there really is no end to the conversation, because at the same time we could convert our cars to run on carbohydrates rather than producing hydrocarbons as a result. We could be running off of carbohydrates from fruit and producing an exhaust that was strictly water. So there's an endless source of possible worldwide implications to increasing our global fruit supply.
From a personal level, I found with cooking food, the smell of it always kind of entices many people. Did you find and the warmth of it, after a cold day and that, did you find you missed that, the smell of the cooking food, and plus the the warmth that comes from food? Is it necessary for us also?
These are good questions. No, I never found myself missing either the smell or the warmth. To be quite honest, I didn't miss it. But that was because I replaced it with something else. If it had just become a void in my life, I could imagine missing. But because I replaced it with something else that I like, in fact, as much, in most ways, and more in all of the others, I didn't miss it at all. I also don't miss those things that I associate with my consumption of cooked foods, such as my allergies, or my asthma, or the joint problems, or the indigestion, or the boils, or some of the other skin issues that I had, or my failing vision, or my inability to remember things well. There were a tremendous number of aspects that I don't miss, and I have to honestly associate the food with both. I have good memories of eating my cooked food days. I have good memories of barbecues and picnics and whatever other things may have been. But if I have to choose today each meal between food that I love that gives me symptoms or food that I love that loves me back, each and every time I'm going to choose the food that loves me back because I love myself enough, I respect myself, have enough self-esteem that I would always rather choose to be healthy each day rather than choose to give myself sickness through my food. But please don't think for a second that raw food does not have rich aromas. It does. It very much does. And when it's being prepared, you smell those rich aromas. It's just for a cooked fooder, you're familiar with the smells of cooked food and you're unfamiliar with the smells of raw. But this raw food smells fantastic. If you've ever smelled mango, I mean, I can tell when a cucumber is being cut in my kitchen because when we eat cooked foods, we dull our senses dramatically. Effectively, they heighten when we go to a raw food diet. The smell of food is profound, and I can often tell what's being made in another part of the house if someone else is preparing raw food. As far as the warmth, I think this is in many ways just something we tell ourselves, because certainly the people who say, well, I need the warmth in the winter, they don't stop eating warm food in the summer when they need the cool. In no way do we find that human beings can actually consume food that is warm enough to warm them. Because the human body is almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and we cannot consume food that's warmer than about 120 without burning ourselves. And so typically the food we eat on our plate is between 105 to 110, just a few degrees warmer than us. I mean, athletes get this warm just by doing a little bit of warm-up for a sports activity. Fortunately, in all parts of the world at this point, people who live in very cold climates have clothing, bedding, and heat, and they get to eat their food indoors. If you were living on the street in the middle of a Vancouver winter, said, oh, I need to eat something warm to hold on to it and warm me up. I go, okay, I can see your point of view, but if you're eating indoors, it's the same temperature indoors all year round, and it's a question that comes up all the time, but the answer just kind of makes it seem like a vaporous concern.
Oh, thank you very much. You've opened my eyes to a lot of the questions I've had about eating raw food and about, I thought with athletic performance that you would need